Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on my YouTube page as well as Vimeo page. And also feel free to leave comments about the content that you're seeing here on the Pace Report. Recently here in New York City, vibraphonist and composer Joe Locke performed music from his brand new CD, Subtle Disguises, which is now available on iTunes, Amazon.com, and CD Baby. Now, this album is very different from a lot of his other projects in one, that he penned music that was reflective of what's going on here in the country as well as abroad. And he decided to dive into some very, very political songs. One by the great Bob Dylan entitled the song Who Killed Davy Moore, which is a revisioning featuring special guest Raul Midón. Now, I had a chance to sit down with both Raul and Joe for the official New York record release performance of Joe Locke's brand new CD, Subtle Disguises, at the Jazz Standard. And they talk about and reflect on why Bob Dylan's song is very prevalent right now, as well as reflect on another song that Joe revisioned, and it's by the great blues artist Blind Willie Johnson, and it's entitled Motherless Children.
And what's the reason for? Now I said the referee, don't point your finger at me. Sure could have stopped it in the eighth and kept him from his tragic fate. But the crowd would have moved, I'm sure, and not in their money's worth. Too bad he had to go, but there was pressure on me, you know. It wasn't me who made him fall. You can't blame me at all. Who killed Davy Moore? How come he died and what's the reason for? Now the citizens crowd screams for the ring out loud. Too bad he died that night, but we just want to see a good clean fight. You can't blame us for his death, we just like to see some sweat. It wasn't us who made him fall, you can't blame us at all. Who killed Davy Moore? How come he died and what's the reason for? What's the reason for?
know, Joe, I was listening to Subtle Disguise, and I'm noticing there is a message in your music now, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now, politically and culturally going on. And this title song, Who Killed Davy Moore, which is a Bob Dylan song, it speaks to some of the ills that are going on right now.
It's funny, Brian, because Who Killed Davy Moore was written by Bob Dylan in 1963, and it was taken right from the headlines out of the newspaper. Davy Moore and Sugar Ramos fought for the featherweight championship of the world, and actually Davy was hit so hard by Sugar that he thought he was okay after the fight. Everybody thought he was okay, but he went into a coma and died 2 days later. And the song was about how everybody passed the buck of responsibility. You know, the manager says it wasn't me, or the press writer, you know, said it wasn't me, or the crowd said it wasn't us. We just came for a good time. And to me, it's a metaphor for the buck of responsibility being passed, which is happening to such a large degree today. And I didn't put it into the program. I put it into the program for Subtle Disguise because Raul had agreed to be a part of the project, and I said, man, I really want to hear Raul just own this tune. But it definitely has a message. It's to me, it's a metaphor for what's going on today. You know.
You know, I was telling Raul before you came in that the only person that I've heard do this was Pete Seeger.
Same here. Actually, there are some songs on this record that are really in my DNA. The Pete Seeger, We Shall Overcome, live at Carnegie Hall. Brian, I can't believe you know that record, bro, because that's the earliest memory I have of music, is my parents playing live at Carnegie Hall, Pete Seeger. It was just him and a guitar. That's right. And it actually, this is pretty deep, man. I never thought of this until this moment, but that's what Raul Midón does, is he stands before an audience with just him and a guitar and tells the truth. You know, and so that connects you to the Who Killed Davy Moore song in another way that I didn't even realize, Raul.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a lot of connections here.
There's a lot of connections. Yeah.
Raul, I want to ask you, what was going through your mind the very first time that you heard the song, the original song by Bob Dylan?
Well, I had never heard it until Joe introduced me to it. Actually, I had never heard it, and Joe sent me the. There's actually a recording of Dylan doing it.
And it's very strange, actually.
It's a bootleg, right?
Strange.
Yeah, it's very strange, and I to be honest, I don't really dig it. It's very strange, and it's this kind of off-kilter, like folk song, like fast drumming, and it's really all about the story. But as a piece of music, for me, it didn't really do anything for me. But it was sort of not until I got into how would I make this personal, you know. But anyway, you'd have to hear the Dylan version, because I'm a fan of Dylan. But this particular bootleg of him singing it is very odd. Yeah,
he's just kind of like trying it out, or it's a live recording. It's just kind of the thing that's for me that's so amazing about it is, you know, I'm a singer-songwriter who happens to like jazz, and there's not a whole lot of us out here. And for me, the putting a song like this into a context like this, that's what, you know, sort of, that's been my whole thing. When I heard this, when Joe, you know, showed me this and told me about what it was going to be, that was just, it just seemed like, yeah, I definitely want to do this. And it was challenging.
And you knocked it out of the park.
It's a challenging song because it's in 15 and and there's a lot of words, and you have to figure out where to put the words so that it still sounds natural.
Yep.
But you're singing in 15. So.
And where to breathe, right? Yeah. And where to breathe. Yeah.
Because I noticed in Soundcheck, Joe, you were asking Raul about what he wanted to add in when you performed it live. So it's kind of like you guys mastered it on the album, but doing this live, it's a whole different beast.
Yeah, it's a different thing, and I wanted to be careful because I tend to call tunes a little bit on the faster side, But for this song, man, it's got to be right in that pocket for Raul to be able to sing the lyrics and be able to tell the story. It's got a lot of syllables in it, you know. So I think we got the tempo right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And basically the tempo was right on the record. I just wanted to make sure it didn't get any faster than that.
Puffing on his big cigar. It's hard to say, it's hard to tell. I always thought that he was well. Too bad for his wife, he's dead. But if he was sick, he should have said it wasn't me who made him fall. You can't blame me at all. Who killed Davy Moore? How come he died and what's the reason for? What's the reason for? Now I said the man who's just laid him go in a cloud of mist. Rain came from another shore where boxing ain't allowed no more. I hit him, yes it's true, but that's what I was paid to do. Don't say murder, don't say kill. It was God's will. Who killed Davy Moore? How come he died and what's the reason for? What's the reason for? Who killed Davy Moore?
Raul Midón, Samvel, Sarkisyan, Lorin, Cohen, Ridl, Adam Rogers. Thank you very much.
When I listen to the song, it's there's a saying that Isaac Hayes says, and he says, "I'm gonna bring it on down to Soulsville." You did bring it on down to Soulsville on this song. Is there a connection to this song about what's going on currently?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't be an artist, a person expressing themselves without being affected by what's going on. And I mean, in terms of my songwriting, it's creeping in there, and it's really, it's impossible to ignore what's going on. And I've never been somebody that was in your face political, but it's hard not to be. It's impossible for me, actually. It's just, this is it feels like, I remember Watergate, and this feels, I'm old enough to remember. I mean, I was a little kid, yeah. but I'm old enough to remember, and this feels like it's way more important, way more. The possibilities, if we don't make the right decisions here, could be really, really dire.
I commend both of you on what you're doing, and I've noticed that the culture level now in America right now, it seems like back in the 70s and in the 60s and 50s, people were connecting the music more with the movements and all the things that were going on as far as activism. And it seems like now today's music, it's kind of really off kilter and no filter, but no message.
Yeah, but I think with the stuff, for every you know, for every kind of bubblegum pop artist or kind of like meaningless kind of musical pablum, you have artists who are really doing something meaningful. And I think you know, there are artists who are doing something really deep too. Young artists too, I'm talking about. I just heard a track that has an accompanying film. I won't even call it a music video, but it's really a film, beautifully done, meaningful film. But Leon Bridges, a song called River.
Ooh, he's the real deal.
And man, it really moved me, and it made me feel like there are artists who are getting acknowledged in the R&B, rock, folk world, who are really doing some meaningful stuff. And it reminds me, I think sometimes when the political climate is dire, sometimes, you know, art rises to meet it, you know. And that film of Bridges, man, is so profound and speaks to, you know, to so much, that there is some really meaningful, beautiful, important stuff going on at the same time that the cultural bar is sinking and sinking and sinking, you know. So anyway,
it's easier. It was easier to agree on things then because we didn't have the plethora of platforms, and, you know, music is available everywhere to everyone for nothing. Yeah. And so, you know, like, you know, Aretha Franklin was on the radio in the 70s and everybody heard it, you know. Right, yeah. Now, you know, everybody's listening to what they want to listen to. Right. And it's a different time. It's impossible to have. I mean, everybody watched Roots when it came on, whether you were a liberal or not. It was part of the American cultural milieu at that time. We don't really have that anymore.
I was thinking of it as sitting around the campfire together, and like watching Roots is an example. We all watched that together, like as a national community, and in that way, like, we were sitting around that campfire together. You know, we all listened to certain albums when they came out, right, and we all listened to them together. And as actually Raul was saying, we don't do that anymore. Everyone's in their own little bubble listening to what they want to listen to. But anyway, it's interesting.
We create our own playlists now, and in some ways that's great. I mean, it's unbelievably convenient and it's incredible. And what we can, as consumers, we are in a golden age, but we've lost something.
know, another very important track on this song, on this album, is "Motherless Child," which is Blind Willie Johnson. Now, here's another song that really, it speaks volumes to where we are right now. I want to know how you chose this for this particular project.
Man, it's really interesting, man. I have to, it's, you know, all the songs on this album that resonate politically at all, it wasn't my intent, but it must have been unconsciously gestating in that way, because this is a song that I've always just loved, and the version I know from childhood, going back to my family of origin again, my sister used to play me music. My older sister B used to play me music up in her bedroom, and one album she had was a Steve Miller Band album, and this version of Motherless Children was, that I knew, was off a Steve Miller album. And so this version in some way is a love letter a little bit, or a tip of the hat to my sister B, who I lost a couple of years ago. And I wrote this arrangement of Motherless Children just because it's just about something we can relate to, you know. Raul sings it so amazingly on the album, and really gives it life, and brings out the pathos and the poignancy of the lyrics. But I'll let him tell you the rest, because he has a connection to the song on so many levels that I didn't realize.
What's interesting about this for me is, you know, my mother died when I was 4. So, you know, when he said about this song, when he told me about doing this song, I thought, wow, you know, this is a chance for me to sing. It's also, it's a chance for me to sing somebody else's song, because as a songwriter, mostly I sing my own stuff. Yeah, right. And to sing somebody else's song that I connect with in such a deep way, you know. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's a lot of serendipity or synchronicity or whatever that happened with this album, that it just happened, you know, for the way, you know, I mean, Joe didn't know that when he asked me about whether I would sing this song.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But man, I just have to say that, man, whether it's Davy Moore or Motherless Children, and I'll speak about Motherless Children since we're speaking about it. Raul and the other guest on the album, Adam Rogers, both of them raised the bar emotionally so high. You know, I stand by the arrangement. It's a good arrangement, and the cats in the band sound wonderful on it. Having Raul and Adam just raise that emotional bar. It's so imbued with the blues, yeah. And the combination of Adam and Raul, they just take it to some place that a friend of mine said he was listening to it a couple of weeks ago, and he said, man, I just started crying because it just hit me on such a visceral level. But that's what these brothers bring to the music. You know, Raul, Adam Rogers brings it, man, such an intellectual player and so capable of playing any and all styles. But
hard on that blues solo, it's incredible.
Because he's got that elemental, you know, American blues thing, and he deals with it on a very deep level. So the combination of Raul and Adam is just, man, I wasn't ready for what they were going to bring, man. I wasn't ready for what they were going to bring to it.
You know what I thought about when I heard this song? I thought about what's been happening with the whole immigration. These kids that are in these camps, and I'm also looking at what's happening globally. I'm like Venezuela. There are a lot of family members that are drifting apart from, and this is sad because, like I said, these songs resonate what's going on with globally.
I spoke about it at a festival. We played Motherless Children, and I said, you know, I got lost in the grocery store once when I was 4 years old, and I was separated from my mom for about 5 minutes. And I still remember it. So imagine that multiplied by days, weeks, months. Man, I can't imagine what people are going through right now as a result of separation, of family separations at the border, and it's and it's completely needless.
Needless cruelty.
Yeah.
Needless cruelty. We don't need to be doing this.
Right.
Yeah. And that song speaks to that. You know, again, it's a thing. It's not the reason I recorded it, but all of these factors kind of came into play. That when I looked at it after we did it, I said, man, every one of these songs, intentionally or unintentionally, is speaking to what's going on socially now. You know.
Motherless children having hard time when their mother is gone. Motherless children having hard time when their mother is gone. Motherless children having very hard time. All that weeping, all that crying. Motherless children having very hard time when their mother is gone. People say a sister will do when the mother is gone. Yeah. People say a sister will do when the mother is gone. People say a sister will do. She'll get married, turn her back on you. Motherless children having very hard time when the mother is gone.
When you were in the process of putting this record together, Joe, what were some of the things musically that you wanted to communicate on this album? And after putting it on wax, what were some of the things that you want to portray now or convey to the music listeners and your fans?
Man, I feel like I have two musical sides of myself and have for a long time. The more composerly one, where I want to push myself as a composer and challenge myself, you know, writing in a contemporary style, and the other part of myself is my desire to play for folks. You know, is to play music that just feels good on a visceral level and feels good below the waist, if you know what I mean. And I feel like I did an album a few years ago called "Lay Down My Heart," blues and ballads, and that's the one that kind of speaks to just making you feel better, you know, and kind of, you know, more folks music and some pretty melodies and stuff. The one after that, "Love Is a Pendulum," had a much more composerly agenda, and I think this one is a coming together and an integration of both aspects of who I am. And I feel like I'm really proud of the fact that it seems like finally I'm able to, you know, honestly incorporate both of them in a way that that works for me anyway, and I hope it works for the listener. You know, there's some writing and some more involved stuff, and then there's stuff that's very visceral. But I hope they work together as a whole, as a piece. You know.
You know, we were talking earlier about, you know, the singer-songwriter, and, you know, guys like Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, Stevie Wonder, Bill Withers,
Those are all good ones.
Carole King,
Mm-hmm.
these musicians, these songwriters wrote some things that challenged what everybody was thinking and what was going against the grain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we're now at a time where we got to get back to that?
I mean, that's what you know, to me, I think, you know, as an artist, well, first of all, I think everybody has to be themselves, you know, but I think we have an opportunity now, because of people being able to listen to exactly what they want to listen to really sort of break down genres. You know, it's interesting what's going on right now, that the genre boxes are slowly breaking down. You know, like this is a jazz, it's a very jazz album, but yet it's got blues in it, and it's got, you know, it has, you know, some other things, even some, you know, sort of classical compositional things. To me, you know, for me, just as you know, personally, that's what, to me, if I hear something and I want to put it in there, I'm going to put it in there. I don't give a damn about the genre.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And man, I wanted to say also, Brian, that a huge part of the success of this album has to do with the core band. And I feel incredibly fortunate to have Jim Ridl on piano and keyboards, Lorin Cohen on electric and acoustic bass, and a young brother from Russia, Samvel Sarkisyan, who I discovered when I was teaching in Groningen at the conservatory there. Met him when he was 18, and he moved to New York, and I'm so glad he's in the band. And it's funny, I have to tell you just a little story about Samvel. I hired him for this record, and then I woke up in a panic, because I said, oh, I know he can play the compositional stuff and the odd time signatures and all that stuff, but he's from Russia and he's 21 years old. He's not going to be able to play Motherless Children with that fat backbeat. And he sure did. He sure did, man. He sounds like he was born and raised in Detroit, man, you know? And he just said to me when I called him, I said, Samvel, I'm not sure, I'm not going to take the record date away from you, man, but I don't know if you can deal with this, man, because this is a really American thing. And he just said to me very softly, he said, I will do my best. And Brian, he sure the hell did. But I'm very, very grateful to have Jim and Lorin and Samvel, because they feel like my tribe. They feel like family to me, and they go out of their way to come to my home and rehearse and to talk about the music and let it gestate and grow. And they're doing it really for love. And I'm really grateful and they're all incredible musicians.
I just want to say something about that. One of the reasons I started playing solo was because when I moved to New York, I noticed there was a lot of people playing in bands, and they were all kind of going from one rehearsal. One of the things I love about this band, it sounds like a band.
It sure does.
It's not a bunch of jazz guys getting together and like going over the tune. It's like these guys sound like a band, and that's really important.
Man, thank you for that, Raul. I'll take that. That's how I feel about it. They want to go the extra mile to make it feel like a band, you know. Very grateful.
One more thing. The video to Who Killed Davy Moore is on your website.
Oh man,
it's on YouTube.
That's Nadja von Masso, my manager, man, and she put together an incredible video which really tells the story of Davy Moore and the fight and you know what the lyrics are about. And my dear brother Jeff Tane Watts makes a cameo appearance as the manager, and man, he needs to get man, what's it called? Man, an Oscar for that, because he took care of business on that. Thank you, Tanish. Thank you, man. Yeah.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the famous Jazz Standard here in New York City for the official New York record release of Joe Locke's Subtle Disguise here at the Jazz Standard. I'd like to personally thank the talented Joe Locke as well as Mr. Raul Midón for their time. Make sure you go out and buy Joe's brand new CD, Subtle Disguise, which is now available on iTunes, Amazon.com, and CD Baby. I'd like to personally thank the staff and management here at the Jazz Standard for their warm hospitality. As always, please visit my website, thepacereport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments, as well as please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.
Who killed Davy Moore? How come he died and what's the reason for? Now I said the referee, don't point your finger at me. Sure could have stopped it in the eighth and kept him from his tragic fate. But the crowd would have booed, I'm sure, and not in their money's worth. Too bad he had to go, but there was pressure on me, you know. It wasn't me who made him fall. You can't blame me at all. Who killed Davy Moore? How come he died and what's the reason for? Now the citizens crowd screams for the ring out loud. Too bad he died that night, but we just want to see a good clean fight. You can't blame us for his death, we just like to see some sweat. It wasn't us who made him fall. You can't blame us at all.